Hi, and welcome to another edition of In the Spotlight with Mayor Jeffrey Mims. And today, as always, all my guests are special. But today I have another very special guest. One is one of the mentees, if you will.
Absolutely.
A Hall of Fame athlete with Dayton Public Schools, Dunbar High School, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Paul Lawrence Dunbar.
Paul Lawrence Dunbar. So I have Dr. David Lawrence. And Dr. Lawrence, good afternoon. How you doing?
Doing great, Mayor Mims. Thanks for having me on. It's an honor, a pleasure to be here. You are definitely like a brother figure who's taken care of me in this journey in terms of my career and put me a chance to be successful in front of kids.
Okay. No, you're already successful with kids. Okay. I think we breathe that air. It says we both act like sometimes we're 12 years old, and so we identify the kids very well.
Absolutely.
So there are so many different things we talk to, and I think today we talked about having a 4-hour show. And I wish, okay, but we don't have the luxury right now. We'll probably have to come back and do some more. But I want to talk about something that's common for both of us in terms of looking at how do we move and improve the quality of life through I should say maybe the citizens that we have, both the little ones that you have and the big ones that I have. And the fact that your little ones turn out to be my big ones. Okay, so talk about that for a bit. Also, talk about maybe the beginning, the purpose of education, especially the purpose of public education.
It's not talked about enough.
Yeah, and I think that's probably a good place to jump off on. So from your thoughts, going back either through your educational experience yourself as a young person in that space, and growing and matriculating through a variety of programs, activities, et cetera, going back to, what's his name, John Dewey?
Yeah.
That talked about the aspect of how education was purposely put in place to help socialize society. Take off on that for a bit. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so there were two schools of thought around education, and one was by the progressives who thought that it was a way to build a democracy, to build a thinking society, one where we could have critical discourse and have advanced conversations and actions around how to move society forward.
Okay, let me stop you for a minute. So it was not test scores, it was not necessarily graduation rates, it was not those kind of things that we seem to be pressed about at this point in time, but just the aspect of how you socialize society along the confines that you addressed.
Yeah, it was to begin to think about how we reproduce and help support and develop democracy. Those are really big ideas. So you had civics courses along with other pathways that had conversations around that, because this still is a young democracy. It's less than 250 years old, something like that.
Yep.
And so you have to ask yourself, how do you have that discourse so that we can have a civil society? So it's public good versus private good. And those are some of the very early conversations. Later on, you would have something called neoliberal thought, which then suggested that schools should be directly tied to jobs and test scores and outcomes as it relates to the United States competing internationally against other countries. And so there are two schools of thought on that. I tend to side more with the former than the latter.
Okay. And I know what I've experienced by being a mayor of a city and looking at how those two pieces work together. Because you look at data, you look at research across the nation, you look at cities that are progressive, that are moving in the right directions, that have citizens with both a high quality of life as well as a high medium income. And so when someone would talk to me or sometimes other legislators or those who are in those spaces, they would generally sometimes talk about almost like the aftermath in terms of jobs. They would talk about the aspect of raising medium income, and they will sometimes forget the foundational components. The foundational components are the things that you have responsibility for putting those things in place. And you have merged them. Those high quality of life cities have done a terrific job in terms of how they merge the two together. And they don't look at it as work. They look at it as just, this is just what we do. This is just fun. Our kids come to school, and we think the best thing we can do is create the best conditions we can for those young people who are in those spaces.
So what we try to do, or in the space of attempting to do, is build that bridge you talked about, so that we're thinking about career pathways, not necessarily jobs. Most people have careers. They're excited about their career. Like, they don't call it a job. They wake up every day. They're excited to get there. Like you were as a teacher. You were one of the best, and you didn't get up every day saying, "I have to go deal with these kids at Belmont and teach art." You ran in the building, and they had to drag you out at the end of the day because you coached as well. You were part of the environment, the ecosystem there. And so what we try to do now is K-12. We're in the process of using something called Forward Next Generation Learning as a framework to partner with industry and universities, public and private businesses, to say, hey, how do we build guaranteed pathway experiences for all kids K through 9? And then after the 9th grade, how do we kind of turn our high schools into career pathways, health and science, STEM, aviation, electronics, career path, plumbing, aeronautics, manufacturing. So yeah, how do we turn each high school into exercise physiology, into a pathway to a job? So it's kind of like, and this will be hard for the Paul Laurence Dunbar alumni. Yes, the name stays on the high schools for sure. Meadowdale's important, Stivers, David H. Ponitz, Thurgood Marshall High School, Mound Street, Belmont. I don't think I forgot any, Stivers. But yeah, so the schools stay important, but what are the pathways that take you into, shall we say, careers that you're helping develop on your end?
Yep. Makes a lot of sense, You know, and over the last 10 years, we found ourselves in a situation where the business community has stepped up a bit more in terms of helping to create more and more jobs. The jobs we have at Intel, for example, that making chips, all the types of things of that nature, that we found ourselves almost, I won't say last, but we were not at the top, okay? And so we found the nation needing more and more chips. And so with Intel and that movement coming to Ohio in particular has created more and more opportunities for our young people to be involved in. And then, of course, we got a big prize we got last year with Joby Aviation, making air taxis, and I tease a lot when I talk about that in the out in the community. I talk about the fact that we are one time up there with GM and the Delco, all those tech places making those type of components, but also making cars, and right there with Detroit. So we went back and took a page from the Wright brothers. And now we're looking at some of the kind of things that the Jetsons are doing in terms of having those little cars right outside your house, right outside your living room. You can just jump in that. So the aspect of now combining what the Wright brothers were doing, and then now combining what they were doing in terms of General Motors and making cars, to be able to build air taxis, which sort of look like helicopters, but to have a plant right out at our airport that we're going to be building. And to see 2,000 jobs and $500 million being invested right here in the city of Dayton. You know, how does that make you feel? How does that make your students feel, your teachers?
So we've talked about that, and we see this as, we see it in this way. We want to give students the best possible opportunity to be successful. And what that means is creating a portrait of a graduate, so that they can transfer knowledge and be successful in any field that they endeavor to do that. So the idea that you've brought some additional spaces in terms of having jobs and careers is fantastic. We don't necessarily direct the kids directly there. What we do is say, hey, we want you to be great. Here's an exposure to all these different experiences. We want them to get exposure to those experiences while they're in high school, and then make a sound decision for what their life is going to be from there. I don't know if you and I would have worked at Joby Aviation. I think we probably still would have become educators. But it would have been great to have that experience as a junior and spend some time there to say, hey, this is another opportunity.
Exactly. You know, the aspect of sometimes feeling that you're destined for certain areas. Actually, I was supposed to be designing cars for General Motors. Okay, so it was a situation where it was 25 below zero in Michigan when I graduated in December from the Central State University, and having done student teaching in Dayton Public Schools and working as well in the Science Center program. given the option of going to General Motors in June, caused me to stay because I was asked to teach in Dayton. So I stayed and worked in the classroom over at Highview, for example, Highview, and then later on Eastmont, and got hooked. Even though I worked started working in the middle of the winter, I found that a little bit of a niche. Now, it didn't hurt that the military background gave me getting some additional skill sets, but it also caused me to get a bump in pay. So I would put on step 4 as opposed to step 1. Oh, okay, I try this and see what's up.
Yeah, and the rest is history.
Here we are.
So I want to stay on us for just a moment about what we're also trying to produce in Dayton Public Schools as it relates to what you're doing on your end in terms of creating opportunities.
Right.
Those opportunities are great, but you have to have job soft skills in order to stay on the job and advance in the job. So what we're working on is when we talk about attendance in Dayton Public Schools writ large, but specifically in our 7 through 12 secondary schools, it's not just come to school, not just come to school so you can pass, but ultimately we are looking at you as a college and career ready and post-secondary child. And that means what happens when you leave the doors of our particular high schools. You're going to go to work. And I know you well. We've known each other for decades. And I think in those decades combined, we've missed less than a dozen days of work. Yeah. We don't miss work. We show up every day. We work very, very hard. And those are some of the skills that we're trying to instill in kids too. Not just grades and test scores, but what happens once you leave here and how do you interact with people? And by the way, I've known you for a long time. You've always made people feel really good at work, about their work. You did it as an educator. You did it in New Futures. You did it as a commissioner, and you do it as a mayor. And so that's another job skill. How do you go to work and work on, you talk about this a lot. Yeah. You like being on a team. Yeah. You know, it's not about you, right? Team sport. Team sport. And so we're teaching those things in K-12 right now, too.
That's critical. I remember having a superintendent that had hired Kurt Stanek from Cleveland, who was here for about 3 years. He would always talk about life is a team sport. And when you look at and talk to those individuals who are in HR, human resources, you talk to those individuals who are coaches in particular, those who are in those spaces where they work with multiple people in really diverse type of situations. They like people who come to work every day, on time, know how to lead, know how to follow, know how to, and when to lead and when to follow. They also understand that they have a responsibility for improving their personal skills. And then you take those skills to work, or you take them to your team, and you make your teammates look good, and then ultimately you make your boss look good. Said that for years. Okay, and your coach, you make your coach look good. And when those things happen, those are some of the skills that you're talking about, those soft skills that are transferable to almost any application you choose to use it in.
You'll relate to this too. One of our initiatives too is to create a space where we get as many kids as possible. I would like to see 100%. That's the goal. Yep. But 100% of our secondary school children stay after school. In an activity. So Omega CDC has been instrumental in helping us build after-school activities. Shout out to them. Yep. And I want to say that we've really built up our band so that kids stay after school. For
they were tremendous to the children's parade this past Friday.
I knew you connect with that as a former musician. They were outside. And then, of course, athletics. And then we want to build in clubs. But the point is there. You've not talked about this for years. There's something about not just athletics, but any extracurricular activity after school, because you're building camaraderie, you're building team, you're learning how to extend your workday. So when you go to school, you make school a 12 and 13-hour day if you stay there, and then by the time you get home, you do it all over again. And if you're in other activities, you do it on the weekend too. What I know about you is I don't know you to have a day that's less than 10 hours. Well, we're getting you ready for those days when we create after-school extended day opportunities for you in school to say, hey, this is how life works. Typically for leaders, you don't do 8 hours, you do 10 or 12.
Right. One of the things that I experienced in terms of the NEKC New Futures program is when we found ourselves in that situation initially, with individuals who had not had some of those backgrounds as we were trying to merge the social service agencies along with helping to create good things for kids who were just in like 7th and 8th grade. And so that aspect of working in that space gave them an opportunity to say, okay, if we had more of these type of things to help bring more and more fun to the classroom, to the school,
absolutely,
we would find ourselves in a situation where we would come more often, and we would come because we wanted to. One of the challenges that they had, one of the things that the kids liked, and teachers began to embrace that, was we wanted to make those 3 schools, initially those are the ones that we were working with, those three schools, the best place for a kid to want to be.
Absolutely.
Best place to want to be. And so even in terms of taking young people who had all Fs, as 7th graders, and having their 6-week summer program where we had teachers who wanted to be there to do everything from taking them swimming to playing softball to learning karate, remediation in terms of their reading, writing, math, all those type of things as well. I think we spent more time on those type of soft skill development programs, but we had like a 4-month learning game in a 6-week program, which shows that we exceeded the learning game, even though we didn't put as much time in according to the things that some people say you have to have. And to see out of those 81 kids in each school that we had, to see all but 2 progress so well in terms of moving to the next level, and then having them work together in terms of taking tests, having them work together in terms of let's have fun, take this test. Let's see how good a group a score U5 can do against this 5, or U8 can do against this 8. Those type of situations, and that took the edge, if you will, off of the test taking program, or test taking process. And they have fun doing that.
Well, I want to say also that we talked earlier before the set around and things that we both share in terms of challenges. I want to be on record as saying we as Dayton Public Schools support your violence interruption programming. And I want to say that we support it by saying that most of the time when you see young people who have careers that they're satisfied with, they're not involved in violence.
Exactly.
And so our job right now, our primary job, is to create those outcomes so that they can be excited about their career pathways that you're helping develop, and that we can prepare them in that space. And in that space, we'll eventually reduce the amount of violence that we see.
Yeah. I still listen to and see a lot of my former students, my own children who went to Dayton Public Schools, who never thought about, if they did think about it, they didn't tell me, causing problems in school or doing anything of that nature, because the aspect of the more activities that they were involved in, the better they perform as just as a human being and learning how to function in that space. And so even when I talk about the issues of going back, being on the boards of education, the president of the Dayton board, and also with the state board, we talked about how we could do the best we could for every child, create the kind of conditions. And I know you have that same thought. How can I create the kind of conditions for every child in my school system that I would want if every child in the school system were mine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you have that kind of mindset. Now we have the responsibility here as a city as well. It is trying to create the best conditions for every citizen, as if every citizen lived next door to us, or every citizen was a cousin or a nephew or a friend or something of that nature. Because moving together is a blessing. It's also a challenge.
Oh, for sure.
How do you communicate to everyone to let them know that while this priority right now is a priority that affects the masses of people, and we always have some individuals who were left alone because of challenges that were out of their control. Sometimes everybody makes a little mistake or so here and there.
They do.
But to see growth, to see the average income, median income as far as the city of Dayton increased by $10,000 or so during the last 10 years, to see more and more jobs moving to the city of Dayton, to see more and more of our young people with bright eyes, thinking about the careers that they have in front of them and things that they can do, and to see more and more of them going to school, like you said earlier, because they want to, because they're looking to have fun. Now, don't mean you just go to class every day and tell jokes every day. And we all had a little bout with that, okay? Because I thought my purpose of going to school was to have fun. So,
well, listen, every job I've seen you on, you've had fun. We want kids to have fun on their jobs too.
Yeah.
I think for me, my final comment on behalf of the school system and the community that we serve is we certainly want to thank you as a mayor. Your interest in education is incredible. Your history and education, your career. I mean, over 4 decades in that space. You know school, and you know how important it is to the community. So we know from a K-12 perspective, you always, as a superintendent, want to have a really good relationship with the mayor. Ours is special, and we appreciate that.
No, it's clearly an honor. Certainly, it's an honor. Because I feel at home in those spaces, and the more at home we feel in both our spaces, okay, the better off we're going to be in terms of how we create these conditions. Because when young people see us, when they see us having fun, interacting on a very positive basis, the parents see us having fun, and of course, a lot of the parents that you have are some of my former students.
Absolutely.
Okay? So they have kids.
Hey, look, I'm getting up there now. Some of my former ones too. It's my 30th year. 29, 30.
Yeah. But it's fun when they see those things happen, and then if they understand, clearly it's more easily understood, if you will, because they may know you from back, as folks say, back during the day.
Yeah.
Okay, so they saw, even like you said, when you were an athlete, they saw the work that you put into that, and so they understand that when you talk about a work ethic, in terms of things you want to do, things you want staff to do. I want you to keep all those kinds of things in mind. Well, I ain't changed. This is where I've been. This is where I was. I came early, stayed late at practice. So you want to have the results.
And transfers to the job you're doing now. I do want to say that we started off talking about the purpose of education, right. And I want to, on my end, close that loop and then give you the final comment to say that you also, in conjunction with us, we had the largest first time voting attendance of our schools in the 10 years or more since you and I started this program of kids voting. And so we're reunited here as mayor and superintendent. And one of the first things we do is for us set records in terms of the number of kids that marched across that bridge to vote, register to vote, and register for the very first time. And I think we're not talking about any specific party. What we're saying is we want kids who are interested in the democratic process. I mean, I think that's how you have a healthy community. And so that is another testament and evidence or an artifact of the work we're doing around civic engagement for young people.
Yeah. Well, you added more blessings this time because this is the second time you had the band.
That's right.
However, this is the largest.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, we had Trotwood's band.
Yeah.
So, and I know. So we had 80 from Belmont. We had 60 from Trotwood. We had 40 from Dunbar.
Mm-hmm.
Being a musician, I understand.
That's right.
So what happened with that? And they were so happy to be able to perform. And even while individuals were voting, they had the Battle of the Bands outside the county building.
That made a national telecast.
Yeah.
Actually, you showed me the link.
Yeah. So showing young people doing the thing with that part. I'm not sure how much more time we got. Probably about a minute or so.
Close it out, Mayor.
But really, close it out. I want to talk about another program that we did. We still work on getting that back together where we want to, the Men of Color. We started that program 10 years ago under President Obama and was picked up by Sherry Brown. And we're not sure who's going to pick it up now, but I know there's work and concentration on thought about maybe mayors from the Columbus, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Dayton, maybe Lima also be involved in that because we each have Men of Color chapters. And it would be special, certainly, to keep that moving into the right direction. But again, hey, I know we can go on and on and on. There's so many
Absolutely.
things happening.
Cue us up for another 2 hours.
Yeah. And so I do want to say again, thank you for the work that you do. Yeah, because we all know it's difficult, it's challenging. Maybe a lot of people don't know just how challenging it is. I hope for those parents who are watching, parents, grandparents, and even some of our young people, because this plays on a regular basis on Channel 6. But the aspect of looking and hearing about some of the great things that we have going on as far as the city is concerned. You mentioned the peace movement, the whole thing with cure violence that we're going to be doing as far as the city is concerned. And we hope to do something like that on a continuous basis. And I want to say that again, on a continuous basis. I want Dayton to be the city of peace indefinitely.
Yeah.
And so that work in terms of that movement in that space, as well as with teaching more and more of adults conflict resolution skills, more children conflict resolution skills, and being able to do all the things that we talked about. And letting kids be able to pick upon graduation whether they want to go to college, whether they want to go to military, whether they want to go to technical or school, or whether they want to just find another work venue or any one of those combinations. All those combinations all work as well. So
I'm scheduled to go out and do home visits from December until May. I didn't take last year off, but we didn't have them scheduled as often, but we're queued up and ready to go out into the community and ask parents questions about school. And any questions they have about city governance, I'll make sure I bring that information back to you.
Or let me go with you.
Oh, that'll be fun.
We'll do that.
That'll be super fun.
Hey, so thanks again. Appreciate you.
No problem, my guy.
Okay? And again, thank you for watching another edition of In the Spotlight with Commissioner Mayor Jeff Mims. And looking forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you. Have a great day.